Aren't you good, Sylvia? Take it away.
Good evening, this is Sylvia Johnson. I am sitting in this evening for Haki Shakur and me, Holla at the Success Scholar. This evening we're going to be talking about business strategies for success. So I have two guests that are actually in studio with me this evening. One is BJ. And BJ, you're going to give your formal name.
Sure.
And BJ is the CEO of Secure Medi, Inc., a very successful security company. And BJ, just introduce yourself.
Very well. I am BJ Falayan. I'm the chairman and CEO of Secure Medi Incorporated. What else would you like to know?
I'd like to know how long you've been in business. I'd like to know how you got started in such a competitive environment.
Very well. I started in 2009. I had been in the security industry for about 15 years or so, and I decided to take all the skills that I acquired through firsthand experience in education, through multiple employers. I decided to just pull it all together, and I decided to just see if I can try my hand at starting my own company.
Okay. So BJ, I know that, of course, I looked at your website. It's very nice, by the way.
Very well, thank you.
And I know that you do work not only in the Washington, D.C. area, Virginia, West Virginia, Florida, Texas.
Yes, we're actually licensed at this point in 17 different states. We're not operating in all 17 states. We're operating in about 7 states right now, but we're licensed in about 7 states. So the 7 states being Maryland, D.C., Virginia, New York, Texas, Kentucky, Massachusetts. Yes, I think that counts all of it. I lose track of it sometimes.
I know, but that's a good thing. That means that you are very productive and progressive.
I would say.
And so your company, BJ, you are armed
and unarmed security guard services. That's the primary things that we do, but we also do security risk assessments, electronic security, and a few other things. We kind of call our services diversified support services.
Okay. So, one of the questions that I always like to ask people, in addition to what made you start your company, is what do you think has been your greatest challenge in your industry?
I think the greatest challenge is we're in an industry that's very low margin. So in order to be able to offer a certain quality of service and operate on very thin margins, it comes with a challenge. So we're just forced to be able to provide quality services and just not cut corners, because it's a very unforgiving industry. So if you get a bad reputation in our industry, it's very hard to shake off that reputation. So that's the biggest challenge, just operating on very thin margins.
Okay, so you do a lot of your business, your clients is it more so government, the private sector?
At this stage, based on some of our recent awards, we've had a shift where we have a lot more federal work, but that was not the intent. To be on the safe side, we really would like to get kind of an even blend, but the predominance of our business is now in federal government work.
Because I know, with our company, we're 8A certified. I believe you're 8A certified
correct
as well. And with the 8A program, I think when you reach year 3 or 5, you're supposed to show diversification.
That's correct. It's more so around year 5, and that's pretty much where we are, where they want to see that we have a preponderance of work, not necessarily outside the commercial, but that we're not only going after work that's in the 8A program.
Absolutely. And so with that, BJ, tell us about your team, because you're only as good
as my team.
As your team.
I think I have a dynamic team, and I know most CEOs would like to brag on their team, but I can truly brag on my team. I have a team that's very well versed, very well experienced. My director of operations has well over 30 years of experience in the industry. My director of training, about 30 years. My director of HR, close to 20 years. So we have a team that's very well experienced and versed in the industry, and we've been very fortunate to be able to attract a good team for a company of our size, quite frankly.
So tell us what makes Secure Medi a company that people want to come to and work for and stay with.
I think one of the main things, and I'm going by based on what my people tell me.
That's what I want to hear.
I think my people tell me that they feel that I'm genuinely vested in the growth and the welfare of the team.
Okay.
They see the fact that we constantly make investments in our people, that we want them to get more training, and the company pays them to get more training, pays for their certifications. They see the interest, and I share the vision of the company with the team all the time. I don't make any decisions without my team. I call them my trusted team of advisors. So they feel that they're a part of something. It's not just a paycheck to them.
Right.
They know that this company is going in a direction and my desire is to carry them all along. So I think that's what's really keeping their interest.
Well, I know, BJ, this past holiday season, you were generous enough to extend an invitation to several of your business colleagues, and I just want to thank you again for that.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And I saw firsthand many of your team members and the great respect and admiration that they have for you and your second in command. And I just think that is just an admirable, quality to have, because as business owners, sometimes we lose sight
Absolutely.
of saying thank you. We sometimes, and I'm not going to say us, but I think sometimes as business owners, we get so caught up on the daily grind.
I think it's very easy to do that, if I can just jump in.
Yes.
One of the reasons why I'm that way is because I remind people that I came up in the industry as a security officer. I started as a security officer. It wasn't a whim for me to come into this industry. This is an industry that I grew up in, literally grew up in. And I always remember what I dealt with when I was in the field and how I felt so unappreciated. And I always said that if God would give me the favor of being in a position where I can make an impact, I didn't want to forget what I once had to go through. So that's why it's such a big deal for me to try to appreciate my people as much as we can afford to.
And I think that is absolutely something that should be noted. I know with my company, we're a health IT biomedical consulting company, and people look at me and say, well, why? And I said, I actually grew up like you,
Absolutely.
Working in a laboratory, and I understand the dynamics and the sacrifices that people make. It's a thankless job sometimes.
It very well can be.
And so when I'm interacting with my scientists and they convey to me, certain things that they feel, I understand, I get it. And I work hard to make sure not only my clients are appreciative of my subject matter experts, but that I'm appreciative
Absolutely.
of them as well.
I mean, it's a known fact. They say if you take care of your people will take care of your company.
Yes.
I own that.
Yes.
We're only as good as our people,
Yes.
and that's really the truth. And we don't say that because it sounds good. I mean, we're literally only as good as our people.
Yes. So tell me what you do about the revolving door, because it seems like a lot of companies are facing that. People are job hopping.
That's true.
It seems not to be, years and years ago, people would stay on a job for 20 and 30 years. You're not seeing that now.
Absolutely. Well, it is a challenge because, we often joke around, but we joke around about it, but it's very true that we have employees that will literally change jobs for an extra 25 cents an hour.
We've had that happen to us.
And that is a challenge. So what we try to do is we try to, again, let them know that if you stick around a little longer and forsake that extra 25 cents an hour at the next company, we can give you something that's more promising, something more fulfilling down the line that will far exceed that extra few cents an hour. So that is what we try to do, but some people don't have the long-term vision.
Absolutely.
They're only concerned about the next paycheck.
Right.
So for those individuals, there's not much that you can do for them. And quite frankly, you have to ask yourself, is that really somebody that you want as a part of your team anyway?
Absolutely. And you're always evaluating, your talent, your internal talent, attracting people and maintaining them, and just providing, like you just said, opportunities for growth.
Absolutely.
And I think that's so very important as business owners. Sometimes with small businesses, we don't have deep pockets and a whole lot of revenue, but we can offer other things.
Absolutely. We can offer some things that don't cost us as much money financially, but they're the intangibles. Sometimes your employees just knowing that you care, you can't put a dollar amount on that, but it costs you nothing other than some time. So some of those things is what we often try to do because, again, we're operating on very slim margins.
Okay. So, BJ, I know there's several people who are listening, some who are business owners, some people who are thriving to become business owners. What advice would you give?
One of the things I advise people, because I hear people say all the time, I want to start my own business so I can become my own boss.
Oh.
Reality check, people, you are never your own boss.
Never.
As long as you have a client that's paying you,
That's right.
every one of those clients
That's
are
right.
your boss.
That's right.
And you have to come to the reality of that. And the other thing you have to keep in mind is that if you're not passionate about it, if you're not willing to do it for free, and I literally mean for free,
Yes.
then it's not the business to get into, because the reality is most entrepreneurs will tell you that before they got off the ground, they had to do it for free.
Yes.
We had to do it for free,
Yes.
and we had to make some sacrifices.
Yes.
So if you're not really looking for that, if you're looking for the next get rich quick scheme, then you don't need to try to go into business. You just need to stay on your day job.
Absolutely. You know, BJ, it's so funny. You know, and I'm going to plug my book here.
Absolutely.
You know, one of the things that I mentioned in the book is when I decided to leave one of my last employers.
I remember you saying
Yes,
that.
leaving my last employer and making that decision, and people were like, well, why are you going to leave a job? I mean, I was probably making about $150K.
Right.
Good money,
Of
you know,
course.
comfortable.
Of course.
And, but I was not satisfied.
Of course.
And you know, I had a situation that pushed me out the door pretty much. I mean, they didn't say get out, you know, Sylvia, but the situation created an
pushed you out the
environment.
door.
Yeah,
Right.
it created an environment that I said, hey, you know, I'm a subject matter expert. You know,
Absolutely.
you get in your feelings and you start feeling like, you know, hey,
They don't appreciate
they
me.
don't appreciate me. I got to do something different. And you know, but you plan.
Absolutely.
I didn't just jump out there one day, come into the office, you know, throw papers in the air, and you know, say I'm out of here. I was planning. I had my escape plan
Absolutely.
in place. And so I'm always telling people who mention, I want to go into business. I want to work my own hours. BJ, I work longer hours. I see my folks go home, and I'm still working. And it's okay because that's the commitment that I've made in my business. And some people say, well, you know, you should be, you know, doing this. But if I do all of the non-important things, my company will not grow.
Absolutely.
It will not grow.
Absolutely. You know, it's interesting that you shared that in terms of the sacrifices you have to make. So I always tell people, and it's funny when people hear this story, I started the company, obviously, but if you were to look at the personnel record, it shows me as employee number 33. It shows that I started working for the company about 2.5 years after I started the company,
Yes.
because I was working for free. I was
Yes.
not even on the payroll this whole time. And again, people just don't realize the sacrifices that you have to make. So again, I couldn't stress enough that again, if you're not passionate about it and if you're not going to be interested in doing it 5 years, 10 years down the line, then it's almost like don't bother.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so many of us, we don't want to sacrifice. We don't want to work the longer hours. We don't want to not bring home a paycheck. I know there's a theory, pay yourself first. Well, your biggest asset is your employee.
Absolutely.
So if I have to sacrifice and make sure they get paid, because nobody wants to work for free. The fastest way to lose your best asset is to miss a payroll.
Absolutely. And they're not forgiving of it because,
No.
again, the reality is even when you have situations, and again, as a small business, we dealt with that in the early stages of the business where we had clients where we provided a service to and they didn't pay us.
Right.
But the reality is that we had employees that did their part, and we had to find a way to pay these employees.
Right.
And yes, we had some challenges and there were some lumps that we had to take during those period of time that it took us a while to recover from.
Right. So, so that's an interesting question because that you brought up. Clients who do not pay or clients who are tardy.
Right.
I know we have contracts that say you will pay in 45 days, 60 days, but in reality, you know, if it doesn't happen, how do you address that and how do you keep your employees
Absolutely.
from worrying?
So one of the things that we try to do is I have a comptroller, he's on the job. Accounts receivable cannot be outstanding for too long. The moment you see, especially a client that's been paying on a regular basis and they start to lag behind, that's a telltale sign that there's a problem. You need to kind of put that in check as soon as possible. The longer you let your receivables go outstanding, the more you minimize your cash flow, and that's where a problem comes in. So the key thing is to make sure that one, you don't bid at a loss when you bid your prices. Do not bid at a loss, and we can get on that into more detail. But the key thing is to make sure that you don't have revenue outstanding because you have to pay your employees, so you have to make sure your clients pay you promptly, and you have to keep that open line of communication because clients will always tell you, hey, I have several vendors, I haven't paid them, but the reality is you have to make it known that I respect that, but we've provided a service so that our relationship can maintain and stay intact. Please make sure you pay us so we can pay our employees.
Right.
Yeah.
So go into the other point that you were going to talk about the when you run into clients who don't pay.
So when it comes to clients who don't pay, there are legal ramifications, and those are the routes you have to take. But what you want to do is you want to hope that you don't go that route, because it's very seldom that you go that route and you can maintain a cordial relationship with that client. So there's a very good chance you may lose that client. So you want to make sure that you can keep that relationship, that open line of communication as much as possible, so it never gets to that. Have we ever had a situation where we had to terminate services? Unfortunately, we had, but that was when we got to the point where we realized that this client is in financial jeopardy and we could not afford to invest any more money in this client, and we had to cut our losses. And in some cases, we literally just did just that. We cut our losses, and we may not have been able to recoup all the money for the services we provided.
We've had that happen to us twice. We had a client who was in the UK, and they were always late. They always paid, but they were always late.
Right.
But you know, we had subject matter experts who were working on their project. They didn't want to hear that this client
Of course
in
not.
the UK was late, so we had to front payroll.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about financing.
Sure.
Having monies available, having lines of credit, having business loans, because there are people out here who are listening to us right now, BJ,
Okay.
and they're going back and forth with how do they finance their company.
Okay. So there's a number of things that you have to keep in mind. So I financed my company in the early stages with the paycheck from my full-time job.
Okay.
And again, people have to understand you can't just move into this haphazardly. You have to plan strategically. I started my company in 2009. I did not leave my full-time job until June of 2011. So I had about a 2.5-year period where I was working the company and working my full-time job, and I had a decent salary, and I was using that salary to finance the business in the early stages.
Wow.
Several people would have to do that. Eventually, there's some programs, and I'll give kudos to the Meridian Financial Group, Meridian Management Group, Randy Croxton and his team.
They're out of Baltimore, Maryland.
They're out of Baltimore,
Yes.
Maryland. They were
The
awesome.
Meridian Group.
They were willing to take us on, and they gave us about a $250,000 line of credit when we barely had probably $100,000 worth of business.
Right.
So they helped us out, but the key thing is we kept our end of the bargain.
Yes.
We made sure that we kept current on our line of credit to the point where we didn't even need the line of credit after a while. So there are financing sources, but you have to keep in mind that the business is one thing, but your personal assets will very well be pledged as a result of that, because most financial institutions know that if the business goes belly up, you can walk away, but people won't walk away from their home, so they have to have a
Absolutely.
personal interest.
Absolutely.
So they want to know, are you willing to make a personal interest? Are you willing to put a personal guarantee in spite of whether the business fails? And that's another thing that some people can't handle, because if you have a home and you have a family, you don't want to put your home, you don't want to put your personal assets on the line if you can't afford to do that. So again, these are some of the harsh realities that a lot of small business or aspiring entrepreneurs don't realize what goes on behind the scenes.
And you know, they say most small businesses fail by their fifth year.
3 to 5 years, the first 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And that's very true. And there's a number of reasons why that happens. One is oftentimes it could simply be the owner gets burnt out because again, they were not passionate about it and they were expecting to make money quickly and they didn't, so they got burnt out. Sometimes they run out of money. Sometimes it's just a matter of the fact that they have bad clients that don't pay them. So there are a number of reasons why a company can fold, but one key thing that I always caution people on is don't be so tempted to underbid projects, because that's the quickest way to run out of cash, because banks don't care about how much revenue you're generating. They want to know how much profit you're making.
Say that one more time, because people need to hear that.
They-
They think revenue.
It's not about the revenue.
That's right.
You can make the revenue, but if you're not making profits, banks are not interested in you. So people need to understand that sooner or later you get to that point where if you are not bringing in enough profit, not a single bank wants to touch you. They do not want to talk to you.
And the fact that the Meridian Group, I call them a different financial source,
Right.
because most banks, conventional banks, don't want to take the chance
That's right.
on small businesses. So I know that the Small Business Administration has a listing of banks who are small business friendly, and that's a good resource. But I think it's also important as business owners that we educate ourselves on other avenues?
Well, the reality is that yes, the Small Business Administration does have the list, and I'm not going to call out any banks per se,
Understand.
but there are some banks that are on that list that were not as friendly as you would think they would be, because somehow they made it to the top of the list. But when you really approach them, you realize that it's not that easy to actually get funding from some of these institutions. One of the things that we learned is that for a small business, don't expect to go to the Bank of Americas, the Wells Fargo's, the big name company. Don't expect to go to them because they cater to the Fortune 500 companies. Try to talk to the local community banks. They are the ones that will roll out the red carpet. They cherish the
credit
business.
unions.
The credit unions. They cherish your business. The big banks don't so much cherish our business because it's it's a drop in the bucket compared to the kind of money that they make.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're going to get our next guest on in studio in a few moments.
All right.
But I just want you to give us a closing statement.
Closing statement.
Yes.
I want to encourage anyone who has a dream of becoming an entrepreneur. I want to encourage you to go for it, but don't jump in the water with both feet. Put one toe in at a time if you have to. Gradually work your way up to it, but it's something that once you can get the business up and running, there's no better reward than being able to actually be in business for yourself. But remember, you're never your own boss.
I think that is absolutely the statement, because I think a lot of people get caught up on the sexiness of being a CEO.
Absolutely.
They get caught up on the title.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, I'm CEO of this, but it's like, it comes with some responsibilities. It's like being a parent.
Absolutely.
You are a parent to your business. You birth it.
Yes.
You nurture it.
You want to see it grow up.
You want to see it grow up, and then one day you want to see it leave.
Absolutely.
The nest.
Absolutely.
And so exit strategies
Exit
are
strategy.
important.
And that's important because some people don't think about an exit strategy.
Right.
The key is not to necessarily work for the rest of your life. The key is to hopefully pass it down to your children, perhaps. If you want to, you can possibly sell the business and be able to have a nice nest egg for retirement. So those are the things that we also have to keep in mind. Sylvia, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming in studio. We appreciate you.
Thank
We're
you
going
so
to
much.
absolutely have to have you back.
Yes, ma'am, boo. I would love to.
And everyone, BJ, give your contact information. If somebody wants to reach out to you, please.
Absolutely. I'm BJ Falayan, again, with Security Incorporated. You can reach me 301-828-0653. That's my direct line. I'm happy to talk to any aspiring entrepreneur. Just understand that I'm the type that gives you the harsh realities of it, because it's only the appropriate way if you're going to succeed.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much.
All right. Thank you.
So joining me in studio next is Gloria Thornwell of Blueprint Human Capital Company. Gloria, thank you for coming into studio.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So Gloria, I already know you.
Yes.
But
yes.
my folks at home don't know you.
Correct.
And so Gloria really made me understand the difference between HR, because I always thought HR was just HR, human resources, and I did not realize there were so many layers associated.
Situated?
Let's see.
That's good.
That's good right there. Wait a minute.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that okay for you? Looks like
think
it's
so.
attacking you a
I'm-
little bit.
I'm
Maybe
just
move it to the
moving.
side a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. And so, Gloria came into our office in Baltimore, JI Solutions, and she
Yes.
presented some dynamic training to our staff. And we're still talking about it.
Ah.
Yes. And so, Gloria, introduce yourself. Tell us about you, your company, and how you got started.
Sure. So I'm Gloria Thornwell, President and CEO of Blueprint LLC, Human Capital Solutions. And we're a human capital solutions company. And we provide all sorts of services and solutions in that regard, to include training and development.
Yes.
But also
Absolutely.
compensation. A lot of small businesses don't recognize that a compensation strategy is really, really important in order to, number one, for pricing, when you're pricing proposals,
Right.
but also just to be sure that you have equitable pay rates within the company. Also, talent acquisition or recruiting, just a whole slew of HR services. And we got started in January 2013.
Wow.
my story is a little different than BJ's, but my story is I was laid off again back in December 2012, just before the Christmas holiday. Can you believe
It's
that?
always that way.
Can you believe they
Right
stopped
before
paying me?
Christmas, right
Can you
before
believe
New Year's,
that?
always.
That's right. So I decided at that time that it was time to go out and just do my own thing. My husband encouraged me to do so and said that if I did that, he would support me so long as I hustled. And when I tell you, he meant hustle, and I didn't really understand what the hustle looked like until I really got into the flow of things. So, yeah.
So Gloria, tell us about your company, your vision for your company.
Sure. So the vision is to be the premier human capital solutions company for small businesses.
Okay.
Really. So while we're in 8A as well,
Yes.
we're also Hub Zone. But while we focus on some of the federal market, we like to have a strategy that combines both commercial and federal. You can't depend on one type of client all the time. So certainly, our largest footprint right now is small business.
Okay. So I think it's so very important because now we've heard it mentioned that all three of us have 8A certifications.
Yep.
So the certifications are critical if you're working in the federal space.
Yep.
And I know that some people are intimidated by the process.
Yep.
But we did our own application for the 8A certification.
Yep.
It was painstaking.
What?
It has gotten better now, but it was painstaking. It kept me up at night. Once we got the call that we had the 8A certification, I actually yelled into the phone.
That's right.
I did not realize that I was on speakerphone. I did not realize that with Jackie Robertson Burnett.
That's right. Yep.
She had me on speakerphone. She said, "I just wanted my folks to hear, the enthusiasm." And I said,
Jackie's amazing.
I said, "Oh boy,
She's amazing.
I said they're gonna think I'm a nut."
Hey,
I think I'm a nut.
that's right.
But Gloria, I mean, HR is so important to every organization.
Yes, it is.
I shared with you a situation. We had a young lady work with us for less than a month.
Yes.
We got a call from the state that she filed for unemployment.
Yep.
She listed us as an employer. We
Yep.
were not her last employer.
Correct.
Explain that process.
Yeah. So typically, you have to work for the organization X amount of hours and X amount of months before you qualify for unemployment from that organization.
Okay.
The way that the state does it is they look at quarters. They look at labor hours in terms of quarters.
Okay.
I forgot the exact term they use, but it means quarters. It's the same
Okay.
thing. And so look and see what the last work period, last work quarter that you worked with them, and then that's how they determine who pays the unemployment to that person. And as we all know, that when someone files unemployment, your taxes go up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
and we were receptive to the phone call and providing information. And I remember speaking to you before, and you talked about good records.
Yeah.
Having good documents
What?
on employees.
Gotta have good records.
Talk about that, Gloria. 'Cause,
Yeah.
we got people listening who are small business owners who are doing things haphazardly.
Yes. So listen, if you don't have good records, it didn't happen, right?
Right.
So you've got to have good records. It's funny you mentioned that because in Blueprint, if you don't mind me, a small plug
Please,
here.
please,
So
please
we're about
plug
to launch.
Blueprint.
We're about to launch our first HRMS, Human Resource Management System called Blue Cloud.
Okay.
It's going to be a cloud-based system. Right now, it's a web-based system,
Okay.
and we're ready to launch it. We're going to launch it at our conference. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yes.
But it's an HRMS where employers, in particular small businesses, can keep accurate records, right?
Yes.
So there's an employee panel, and then there's also an employer panel,
Okay.
where you can keep records for performance reviews and salary notations, that sort of thing. It's really, really phenomenal. I can't wait to show it to you guys at the conference.
So if
Record keeping is so important.
if a company is audited for
Yeah.
some reason, and you have to provide
A bunch of
employment
records.
records and things
That's right.
like that, this system captures all of that
Captures
information.
all those.
And
If you put it in there, it's going to capture it, but you have to
Okay.
keep it up. You got to put it in there.
Okay.
And so the other tool that the system's going to have or has, which I love, is a salary calculator. Right.
Wow.
Really, really important. A salary.
So Gloria, so wait a minute, I'm sorry, I hear salary calculator, so tell me what you're talking about,
Yeah.
because are we talking about, every time we do a proposal, we go and look at GSA schedule, so what is this
Yeah. So the
difference?
salary calculator helps you to determine the salaries that you're going to pay for a new hire, or even when you're bidding a proposal. So it has it's an online calculator, so to speak.
Okay.
And so you'll put in what your numbers look like for benefits,
Okay.
and for all the taxes and fees and benefits and things you pay for every employee. All that goes into the salary calculator, and then it spits out a number as to what your number is going to look like at the end of the year for that particular employee.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can use it for proposal purposes.
Yeah.
You can use it for, making salary decisions, etc.
I think
Yeah.
that's phenomenal.
Yeah, and well, and most HRMSs don't have that, so we're really proud that we're offering something that other HRMSs don't. Folks will say, well, I use paychecks. Sorry, paychecks.
Okay.
Or I use ADP or whatever, and that's
Okay.
good.
Right.
Number one, the systems are a little bit more expensive.
Yes.
Very
much so. Small business owners. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have a lot of add-ons, and every time you add something on, then there up goes your price. So ours is priced a little bit differently. But the point is, many of them don't have salary calculators, right? So ours is a salary calculator. Again, I'll show it to you at the conference, and I'm excited.
So Gloria, I should have asked this question at the beginning. When should one bring in the services of an HR or human capital specialist?
I would say right around 25 employees, between 20 and 25 is
Okay.
good. Is a good number. Because at that point, listen, I hate to say it, you've got to tell adults how to behave, right?
Yes, you do.
Adults really are children in big bodies, and so if you don't tell them what to do, they do what they want to do, and they'll make their own decisions, etc. And it sounds kind of strict, and it sounds like sometimes folks say, "Were you in the military? Were you?" No, I wasn't. But it's always so true. So you have to have employee manuals, and then you have to have salary calculators. I'll tell you just a quick buzz about the salary calculator again. Is that it helps you to be honest about your numbers, right?
Okay.
Because sometimes if I ask a small business owner, well, how do you determine your salaries? And she'll say, or he'll say, well, I pay what the contract can afford. But that's the wrong answer, right? Because you have to look at a whole bunch of other things to determine what salary you're going to pay
That's right.
each and every person. But back to your question, I would say between 20 and 25 is when you really need some HR support. Even if it's not a full-time person,
Okay.
you can have, HR solutions provider like a Blueprint to come in and
Okay.
work a la carte to work on.
So you can have HR service as a contract service, so you don't actually have to have a body
Correct.
in place full time.
Correct. Yeah. So our folks, they work virtually. We don't need to be at your site. We have our own tools, our own stuff. You give us access to what you want us to have access to, and then we provide the services as per your needs. So if it's an employee manual, we'll do that.
Okay.
If you need a new employment application, which most small businesses do, because there's still applications that ask for birth dates.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Which is totally illegal. And then
Wait a minute, you said it's totally illegal.
can't ask for birth date, date of birth, can't ask.
Really?
No, cannot.
I didn't know that. See, I'm
Can't
learning. I just thought
Yeah,
it
look
part
at
of
your
the
job
application.
application. Change it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't ask that. No, can't ask that. And now some things have changed in the state of Maryland where you can't ask these days about convictions, etc.
I knew about that
Yeah,
one.
we talked about that before. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's so when the laws change, then it's our job to be sure that you are compliant. Anything from employment application to a termination letter to an offer letter, right?
Okay.
And we had one client who kind of confused the 1099 and the W-2 role and gave his 1099s offer letters.
Oh,
And so that's
No,
that's a
that's
big
an
mistake.
employee.
Yeah, right, correct. So we're working with him to make some changes, et cetera, so that he does it the right way.
so he should have given them a scope for work.
A scope of work,
Right.
not a job description,
Right.
but also a 1099 contract, an agreement, versus
Right.
a letter of offer.
So, tell us about this wonderful conference.
Well,
That's
so we
coming
have
up.
a
We're
phenomenal
excited.
conference is coming up.
Yes.
Again this year, our first conference was last year in 2016. It's called Beyond All Limits.
Okay.
Beyond All Limits is the small business conference of the year. I just gotta
Yes.
say that. It just is,
It
right?
is. It
BJ
is.
was there last year. He thought it was fantastic too. In fact, we have him on video saying something.
Yes.
So it's called Beyond All Limits. Our theme this year is Gain the Edge, Advance Forward.
Okay.
And so really this conference is not about this year. This year, pretty much if you're trying to get federal contracts, the year is practically
gone.
done. Yeah,
Yeah.
their fiscal year is almost done and it's been a mess, et cetera.
Mhm.
But this is really about 2018, not 2017,
Okay.
right? And so we're gonna have a lot of phenomenal speakers. Mr. Falayan is one of our presenters.
Bringing BJ back.
Hey! And BJ is gonna talk on a panel about pricing your work. He talked a little bit about that earlier.
Sure did.
Listen, pricing your work is so important. And as he mentioned, the banks don't care if you have revenue. What they care about is profit.
That's
But what
right.
the government cares about is are you the lowest price technically acceptable?
Yes.
So you got to figure out a way to do that. And our salary calculator in our new HRMS will help business owners to tackle that. So we're going to have folks talking about pricing
Okay.
their work,
Okay.
also writing technical proposals.
Oh, nice.
We're going to have Mr. Darnell Self. He's Executive Vice President of networking and business development.
Okay.
From Legal Shield is our keynote, our lunchtime keynote. Emma Lobo Sullivan is our opening keynote. What I love about Emma is a minority like you and like me. She's a Cuban American. She came, she started her business, and her exit strategy, you guys talked about that earlier,
Yes,
her
we did.
exit strategy was to sell the business. So now she works for one of the major primes, but hey, in a few years she'll be ready to retire.
So she actually sold her
She sold her
existing
business. Yeah, so
company.
she was in business for just under 20 years, built it to the point where it was ready for acquisition. She sold it, and now she's just smooth sailing.
So give us the date for the conference and location.
Yeah, so the conference is Thursday, June 15th. That's like a week from this Thursday.
Yes, it is.
You guys better sign up, right?
Yes, it
Sign up
is.
now. Don't forget the registration. You can learn more at www.blueprintbal.com. Now listen, blue is without the E.
Okay.
You're not going to get our site if you put blue with an E.
Okay.
Right? It's not the regular blue.
Okay.
It's www.blueprint, BLUprint.bal.com. And we're going to also talk about the market outlook for 2018. So
Okay.
I'm excited about that.
Wonderful. I know that we have about 4 members from our team.
Yes.
And we signed up early.
Yes.
Because I think we absolutely,
You're
not
the
think
first
I
big
know.
team.
Yeah, I know we wanted to have, representation, and
Yes.
I want my team to learn from the best.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, they're
Yeah.
going to learn from the best.
I wanted my team to learn
Listen,
from the best.
we selected our presenters as we selected BJ. We selected our presenters because we know what they've done.
Right.
On record, they have been really successful in terms of, winning, major awards and having a decent profit margin to talk about, right? So again, market outlook for 2018, the federal GSA schedule is another topic. Exit strategies, the whole thing from soup to nuts. So you don't want to miss it. If you miss it, you got to wait till next year.
Next year. So Gloria, the same question I asked BJ. What advice would you give? We have people who are watching. We have people who are federal employees. We have
Yes.
people who are in the private sector. They're thinking about leaving their job. They're looking for advice.
Yeah. I would say, and I have to piggyback with BJ, really have some strategy. With me, the truth is I was kind of thrown into it in a way, so I gave it some thought, etc., and decided to go for it. But you really do have to have a strategy. You really have to have a plan, because when you jump into it, as BJ said, with both feet, you might find yourself drowning. So you want to be sure that you can swim those waters, and come to conferences like Beyond All Limits
Absolutely.
to learn, really how it's done and who does it, etc. It makes, it really helps to make everything a lot easier once you can learn from those who have walked those waters or walked those paths and swam those waters. It makes a lot of sense. So I say go for it, but certainly have a game plan in mind, and and don't give up.
Absolutely.
Don't give up.
Absolutely. I think, business in itself, Gloria, we started the company in 2011, and there were many hard roads, we traveled for the business, but my thing was failure was never an option.
Never.
And that's what I
Never.
had to tell myself, even times when I felt like, what did I do?
How did I get into
what
this?
did I do when I left my good government job?
That's right.
That was the first thing. It was
That's
like
right.
after 18 years,
That's right.
I left my good government job, and then going to work for, in the commercial sector, and then leaving there. I was like, what did I do again?
What was I thinking? Yeah,
What
did I think
do?
this through?
But,
Yeah.
I'm a very spiritual person.
Yes.
And I remember being at my church, First Baptist of Glenard, and I won't plug that, Pastor John Jenkins.
Read Temple, amen.
And I remember the service, and he talked about stepping out on faith.
Yes. Yes.
And I just felt like that word was for me. And I was going back and forth with what I wanted to do, and I said, you know what, Sylvia, you know what you need to do. You know what you need to do. You need to be obedient.
That's right.
And obediency comes without back talk.
That's right.
That's what we have to understand.
That's right.
Obediency comes without back talk.
Mm-hmm.
And when I made the decision to leave the job, it was the best decision that I've ever made in my life.
Yeah.
And people would say to me, my government former colleagues would say to me, you ever coming back? You coming back?
Nope.
And I said, no. I said, oh yeah, I'm coming back. I said, but in a different capacity.
That's right. That's right.
I'm coming back. And I'm back.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I'm back now as your
back.
partner,
Yes.
right? As your solutions
I'm
partner
back.
versus as your coworker
Absolutely.
or as your colleague.
Yes.
So
And I'm hoping that I inspire them.
yeah.
That there is life after government service.
Yeah.
And that they can do it. And looking at, your company Blueprint, and looking at BJ's company, Secure Medi, you know, we all worked in our industry.
Yep.
And that's what I tell people.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
You know, what is this, fake it until you make it?
That's right.
No.
Yeah.
Don't fake it until you make it.
Yeah.
Know what you're
Either
doing.
you know it or you don't.
Know what you're doing.
You know, for me, I was in HR for 20 years
Mhm.
before chartering Blueprint. I didn't guess at it. I didn't have to read a book.
Right.
I didn't just get a master's degree in it. I mean, I have a master's, but you know, I practiced HR practitioner for 20 years in the government contracting environment. So I know what it feels like to be in that world, etc. And I know what it's like to work for small companies. I work for 3, 4, maybe 5, you know, small companies during my 20-year tenure as a W-2, and also some large companies. So I've had both spectrums, and I know what it takes to run a successful organization and to have really good people strategies and people practices in the organization.
And I think for our session, you know, this evening, I hope that we have inspired. I hope that we've provided useful information. This will be available on YouTube.
Perfect.
Our engineer here loads up the show very quickly, so people will have access to that information. If individuals missed it and they want to, you know, catch the recording, or if they want to go back
Yes.
and pick up a certain point, that information is there. Gloria, give us your contact information.
Sure. So my contact information is 855-895-5105. 105. Make it easy for you. 855-895-5105. My email address is gthornwell@blueprint-LLC.com.
Well, this has been a wonderful session tonight.
Thank you.
And you know, the motive here was to inspire.
Yes.
Provide information and inspire, because I think, you know, we need more entrepreneurs.
Yeah. And women entrepreneurs. I read
Women,
an article
yes.
just yesterday about how women entrepreneurs are really making a difference now, and how we're going to make more of a difference in the future.
Yes. Well, I said 2 years ago, this is the year of the woman. I say that every year.
Well, you know,
I
Wonder
keep
Woman,
saying,
right?
yeah, Wonder Woman. You know, it's so funny. I saw a clip,
Uh-huh.
and it was so funny. I said, all this time I didn't know I was Wonder Woman.
Yes, you are.
Yes,
Yes, you are.
I am.
Absolutely.
And we're all Wonder people.
That's right.
You
That's
know,
right.
Wonder
That's
Woman, Wonder Man.
That's
you know,
right.
we're,
That's right.
we're
Superman
all
and Wonder Woman. Hey.
all of it. We're all superheroes.
That's right.
But yeah, so it's been absolutely phenomenal. We're going to definitely have each of you back.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll have more time.
Yeah.
Because I've thoroughly enjoyed this. Again, we're broadcasting live at Everlasting Life in Capitol Hills, Maryland. Haki will be back in about 2 weeks. We have another guest that's going to fill in for him next week. And I just want to tell you guys, Black Friday is going to be June 25th. It's going to be featured here at Everlasting Life in Capitol Heights, Maryland. The time, I believe, is, I can't see the time. 1 p.m. So Haki will be doing Black Friday. And please support. And we will see you again in about 1 week, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. eLife Media. Have a great night.